everyone, and welcome to SpeakUpSis Podcast. This is the place where every day women and men have an opportunity to share their stories to inspire yours. We say what you think no one wants to hear, but everyone needs to know. I'm your host, Angel Charmaine, and tonight, everybody, we have another episode of One on One with Angel. And this episode gives me, or this segment gives me an opportunity to talk with some everyday people to hear what it is that they have going on in their lives. We talk about maybe some of the triumphs that they have been able to overcome. And prayerfully, those of you who are watching will be inspired by their stories so that you will open up your mouth and share your own story. Tonight, I've got a beautiful young woman in the Speak Up Sis podcast space who is going to talk to us about her journey. She started her journey pretty young. She is both a musician as well as a visionary leader. And I'm going to let her tell you more about who she is and what she's been doing since a little girl and what she's doing now as a young adult. Her name is Miss Nya Simone. And I would like to welcome Nya into the Speak Up Sis podcast space right now.
Thank you so
Welcome,
much for
welcome,
having
welcome. How are
me.
you doing, Nya?
I'm doing good. How are you?
I am doing well. Thank you so much for asking. I'm getting a little tongue tied here tonight, but that's okay. So, I would like to say thank you for coming into the space to even share what it is that you do and what you are looking forward to doing. I know that you probably need a little bit of help from some people to get that vision up and moving. And so I'm looking forward to chit chatting about that tonight as well. But before we get started, I would like for you to share a little bit with our viewing and our listening audience about who is Nya Simone.
Well, I am currently 20 years old. I'm a student at Georgia State. My major is art administration with a concentration in music, and I minor in Chinese. I've been playing instruments since I was 11 years old. I play bass guitar and saxophone. I built my organization off of a love for music and out of a love for community, and I'm just trying to continue that.
Chinese.
Yes.
What made you want to study Chinese?
My mom put my sister and I in a private school when I was 11, and they had two languages we could take. We could either take Spanish or Chinese, and I was tired of taking Spanish, so I chose Chinese. And I took Chinese for 2 years in middle school. I wasn't able to take it in high school because I went to public high schools. So once I got the opportunity to study it in college, I took it because I wasn't able to do it in high school.
Okay. Can you speak fluently or can you just kind of read? Because for me, I'm not a really fluent Spanish speaker anymore. However, I can read Spanish pretty well. So do you just read it well or can you speak it a bit? How fluent are you right now?
I can speak very basic conversational Chinese. I can read it pretty well, but Chinese is tricky because it doesn't have an alphabet. There's no alphabet. So it's really, really tricky to learn. I love learning it though. It's a challenge, but it is still very difficult. But I am good at basic conversation.
Good, good. I just want to say that speaks volumes to you as an individual. The fact that you would choose to learn a language that is probably difficult for most people who are not native speakers to learn, especially at such a young age. Oftentimes, we see young people who just want to do the easy thing, like just let me get my credits and move on. But I believe that that in itself speaks so much about who you are as a leader, as a visionary. and as someone who's really wanting to do some really powerful things in this world. So when you and I had our sort of pre-screening conversation, you shared quite a bit with me, and I watched some of your previous spaces and read some information about you. And I saw that you have been in the spotlight for a long time. Like you started being featured in spaces as a little girl. Do you mind sharing with everybody your experience as a childhood musician?
Yes. So when I started playing bass guitar, I started playing at a rock camp. It was a Black girls rock camp. It was put on by Jessica Caramore, who is a very pretty well known poet, especially in the city of Detroit, because that's where me and my family were living at the time. That happened when I was 11 years old, and then later that same year, I ended up picking up saxophone for school, and I took lessons in both saxophone and bass guitar that year. And I was able to have some pretty cool opportunities playing bass guitar. Because saxophone was more so for school, I really just performed like with school stuff. But with bass guitar, I was able to open for George Clinton with Nick West, who was a pretty well known bass player at Campus Martius when I was 12. And the next year, I think the next year is when I performed at Black Women Rock at the Charles H. Wright Museum in Detroit as well. Um, and it's very, like looking back on it, I really appreciate the experience because it gave me a lot of perspective, especially on like what I want to do for a career now. At the time, I was glad to do it, but I didn't really appreciate it as much because I didn't really understand the gravity of what I was being blessed to do. Um, so yeah, and then after a while, I kind of stopped performing a little bit. But when I was 13, I came up with the idea to start Make Us Known. And the first thing that we did was a performance showcase for Detroit youth in the area. So I got to perform there and kind of got to lean on the people that I supported me through my performances that I had. I got to lean on them, and they were helpful to the success of the event that we had. Like the house band that we had was because of a music instructor that I had. The songs that I learned how to play were from my first bass instructor teaching me. Um, the space that we were able to rent out, my church family donated because they had seen me progress as a musician because I had been going to that church since I was like 7 years old. So really getting to lean on my community who had seen me do these performances and grow as a musician really contributed to the success of that event.
Listen, there's so much you said that I was gleaning from that even adults, or I won't say adults because you are a young adult, but older adults find it difficult to do, and that is to build community, establish rapport, collaborate, and lean on those relationships. And I think everything that you said, those are actually skills, and for you to have learned those skills so early on in your journey, I think are pretty amazing, and to have a community to step up for you and support the work that you do, or was doing at the time, is tremendous. And so I take my hat off to you for being able to accomplish so much so early. Another thing we talked about, though, when we were having a bit of a conversation, is that although you had this sort of great start, in this past year, you've had a little bit of uh, troubles, if you will. I hate to call them troubles, or you've had some situations, you had maybe a mountain to climb,
Yeah.
um, because you were kind of in a valley place, in a low place. And we talked about how your belief kind of help pull you out of that. Do you mind sharing a little bit of where you found yourself in this past year and how you were able to come up out of that, because in coming out of that valley place, make us known, has you've been given a bit more direction
Yes.
with make us known, right? So do
Yes.
you mind sharing with us that process?
So earlier this year, I had like a really, really bad depressive episode, and it was really bad. Like I couldn't get out of bed for classes. I couldn't go to work. I was just in the bed crying all day. It was terrible. My mom had to make multiple drives from home to come get me off campus. My family and my friends were checking up on me all the time. It was just really bad, really rough. And I really struggled with finding the motivation to do anything. Um, but I grew up going to church, so I was just like, okay, let me try praying. Because growing up, I was taught how to pray. I was taught how to fast at a very young age. So I was like, okay. I remember being told that the fastest way to get a response from God is to fast. So I did like 3 back-to-back fasts, and I was praying. Like I would wake up, cry, pray, go back to sleep, and it was just a cycle for days. And after a while, I felt like I started to get a sense of direction. And during this time, I kind of there was a period of time where I didn't feel like it was quite working, but I realized that there were sometimes I would be sitting by myself and I would just see the same thing over and over again in my head, but I just thought I was daydreaming, like I didn't think anything of it until I started seeing the same thing when I went to sleep at night. So I'm like, okay, let me sit and pray on this a little bit more to make sure I'm not going crazy. So I sat on it some more, prayed on it some more, and once I started writing down what I was seeing, I was actually able to put it into words and to figure out what it was that God was trying to get me to do. And I kind of just went on from there. After that, I called my mom and I talked to my mom about it, and she was like, "Okay, well, if that's what you, excuse me, if that's what you feel like you need to do, then I'll help you. I'll support you." She was like, "But you are 19." I hadn't turned 20 yet when this happened. Well, I was 19 at the time, and she was like, "You are 19 now, so I'm not gonna hold your hand through planning this event this time. I showed you how to do it when you were younger. It's your turn to kind of figure out and do it yourself." So I'm like, okay. But she's like, but she said, "I will make sure that I support you. You won't do it by yourself, but you're just gonna have to take the lead on it this time." So I said, okay, that's fine. So ever since then, I've been planning this event for my nonprofit. It's set to take place next year, in Augusta, Georgia. It's the College and Career Expo. It's supposed to help high school students in the area get a better idea of like colleges and jobs that they can go into after high school or even while they're in high school. And there's also going to be a sports showcase for student athletes to help them get recruited.
Okay, that's a lot. Let's we're gonna go back just a little bit to the low place, if you will,
Mm-hmm.
that you were in. I think it's really interesting that you would turn to prayer and fasting. That's I'll say now because uh the past 21 days, and by the time we are sharing this, it'll be over, so I don't mind sharing it at this point. But I have been fasting with just water for 21 days, and today is day 16 for me. And so I think it is brilliant that in that place, the Spirit of the Lord would lead you to fast and pray, because we know that there are some things that only, right? There are some things that only happen through fasting and praying. And so for that to have been able to help pull you out of that depressive state, I think it's just brilliant. And for you to be so young and for that to be the thought. Like this, I believe this will help me. I don't know what else is going to help, but this thing, I'm just going to try it, right? So I think that is, I'm listening to you and I'm listening to the Chinese and I'm listening to I'm doing this at 11 and I'm listening to I'm praying and fasting at 20, at 19 years old. And I'm just really happy to have met you and just been able to have this conversation with you because it is inspiring and it is encouraging. And I believe that not only will young people be inspired by what you're talking about, but I believe there are lots of adults who will be inspired as well. I also, again, applaud the adults in your life, your mom who is willing to help. And she's not like, do figure it out on your own, but to say I'm going to be there with you, kudos to mom as well. And then the event. So we're going to take about a 30-second break, just a little tiny commercial break for just a moment. But when we come back, I want to talk about the expo that you want to put on. I want to talk about why you're choosing to have it in Augusta, Georgia, because you are not in Augusta, Georgia. So I would like to talk about what is leading you to have it here. And I want to get a little bit more information about the expo, and we'll talk a little bit more about what you may need and all that good stuff. Okay?
Okay.
All right. So we will be back in just a moment. It's that time again, time for the second annual Speak Up Sis Awards Ceremony and Dinner Gala. We'd like to say thank you so much for our award category sponsors, as well as all of our table sponsors. If you are interested in being one of our exclusive sponsors for this year's gala, please send us an email at info@speakupsismagazine.com or just give us a call at 706-394-2030. All right, everybody. Welcome back to Speak Up Sis Podcast. This is the one-on-one with Angel segment, and I am here with my guest, Nya Simone. She is a musician, college student, as well as a visionary leader and the visionary for Make Us Known. And she is in the process of putting together an expo for young people, and it's going to be right here in Augusta, Georgia. So, Nya, I need you to tell me, like, why Augusta? Why not Atlanta? There are lots of young people there, lots of things going on. So, what is it about Augusta that is bringing you here?
So when I first started having like the daydreams and the dreams that I was having, like it happened in the same place every time. And it was in Augusta. So I was like, okay. So when I actually started putting in like the research and the effort into planning it, because I did look at and think about just having it in Atlanta because that's where I am and it's like more feasible that way. But nothing I looked at or was trying to get in negotiations with just wasn't, it didn't feel right. It didn't feel like what I was supposed to be doing. So I ultimately just decided to go with Augusta because that's literally what I saw, how I saw it, and I'm not trying to go against, what God has shown me. I have prayed on it multiple times. I've got confirmation on it multiple times. So I'm just trying to do what it is that God gave me to do, exactly how He's told me to do it so far.
Okay. Hey, it sounds good to me. I am a person who absolutely believes that whatever it is that God has called you to do, you should do it. And you should do it the way He says to do it if you want it to work well, right? So, with that, have you ever been to Augusta?
I've been there a couple times and I liked it. I just haven't been there like over a long period of time, but I have been there before.
Gotcha. Have you been able to connect with people? locally here in Augusta about the expo?
A few people, not a lot. Um, because when I planned my first event, we had me and my family, we had community there that we can lean on, and a lot of what goes into having a nonprofit is being able to lean on your community and like on the people around you. And because I'm not in Augusta and I don't have any family there, it's definitely a bit of a challenge. But I have connected with a few people, just not a lot.
Mhm. Okay. Well, prayerfully, after this segment, there will be some people who will be willing to be a part of your community and potentially help you to get this ball rolling. I am definitely happy to connect with you with Speak Up Sis in any kind of way that I can be helpful to ensure that you get this thing done. So I would like for you to explain a little bit more in detail about the expo. Let's talk about exactly what you need, what you're looking for. Um, if you have a specific location, if you need people to participate, if you're looking for vendors, if you're looking for musicians, if you're looking for performers, like give us some more detail about what you're going to need.
Okay. So right now we're set to have it at Augusta University. So right now we really need sponsorships because most of this coming out of pocket. Like I'm literally taking my refund from school and paying for it. So all of this is coming out of pocket so far. So we need sponsors. Um, we definitely need we definitely need participants, like parents who want their students to participate. Um, what else? What else? Um, I can look into getting vendors. We are kind of limited on space, like because it's really kind of difficult for us to have vendors, but I can look into it and that's something I am open to. Um but right now that's all I can think of off of the top of my head.
Okay, and that makes sense. In order to make it happen, you need money. And so right now, it sounds like you're really needing people to come on board who are willing to help you fund this um, and and who are willing to actually participate. So I would think those of you who are watching, who may be involved with the school systems, being able to put flyers up and things of that nature, to be able to connect with the Richmond County school system and even maybe some of the surrounding systems in the CSRA to make sure that young people will come out and all that good stuff. And if you are listening and you think this is a wonderful idea and that this young lady has something wonderful that you would like to connect with, then listen, connect with her, and maybe you'll be able to help her to bring the fullness of the vision out and decide what it is that she will need from people who are local to help make this God vision um, a reality next year. Do you have a date for it, or is that still in the works?
Our original date was set for January, but because of the recruiting schedule, because there is a sport showcase aspect to it, because of the recruiting schedule, it wouldn't have been we wouldn't have been able to get the any D1 colleges for football to come out during that time. So we are postponing it. It looks like we'll probably postpone it until next fall. I have to pick out a specific date, but the original date was January 27th, 23rd through 27th. That's what the original date was.
But you're looking to postpone it until the fall time of next year.
Yes.
I think that's pretty good, especially that you know, you beginning to step out and have these interviews and, you know, talk about it more. I think it gives people a bit more time to learn about you and what you're doing, and it gives people time to get on board and and help you with this. So I think that's probably a good thing to that you're going to postpone it a little further in the year. So, is there anything else that you would like to share? I like to wrap our segments up with something good and hearty and encouraging. Do you have any words of encouragement for people who are listening? It can be young people, older people, anything that you would like to leave us with.
Um, I guess for younger people, for me personally, listen to your parents and what they have to tell you, and do not take their willingness to teach you stuff for granted. Because had it not been for the way that I was brought up and the stuff that I was taught when I was brought up, I would be a completely different person now. And had I not had the idea of prayer and fasting not been instilled in me from when I was 7 years old, I would not have made it through the beginning of this year at all. I would be a completely different person. So listen to your parents.
Listen, I co-sign. Being a mother of four, my sons are young adults right now, but being the mother of four young adult children, hey, you get my stamp of approval on on that bit of encouragement for young people. Thank you so much for coming into this space and having this conversation, sharing a little bit about you and sharing a little bit about what you're passionate about right now, what you're working on. I really appreciate you. I would like for you to share with everyone how they can get into contact with you if they're interested in working with you on your upcoming expo.
Okay, you can email me at muk@nsn2.org, or you can follow Make Us Known's Instagram, muk.inc.
Super easy. Super easy. So, thank you, Naya, for coming into the space. I really appreciate you. Thank you for your interest in being a guest on Speak Up Sis podcast. It has been a pleasure getting to know you and talking with you. And I know this will not be our last time having a conversation. All you have to do is reach out. And if there's anything that I can do to be of assistance in making sure that your expo happens and it happens well and in a spirit of excellence here in Augusta, Georgia, please feel free. You have the number. Just give me a call. Okay.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate that.
You are so, so welcome. All right, everyone. This is the end of our one on one with Angel segment with our guest, Nya Simone. I thank you all so much for tuning in tonight. We will be back next Tuesday with another Speak Up Sis podcast episode. If you would like to be a guest on Speak Up Sis podcast, all you have to do is visit speakupsis.com/podcast and select the become a guest button, and all the information will be there on our form. Submit that form, and if you're a good fit for the show, someone will reach out to you and get you on. Thank you so much, and until next time, don't forget to open up your mouth and speak up.